Welcome to Rauta, and this time a festival recap. It's about Turku Saatanalle XII, or the year 2025 edition, which just took place a week prior to this video coming out. Now, obviously, a lot of people know already what I'm talking about, given that I did a preview of the festival, and of course, a lot of people who are following the channel were there. But considering the sheer amount of followers on Rauta, 21,000, and the capacity for the festival being less than 800, obviously a lot of people have no idea what's going on and so forth. So in case you were there, I don't know if this video has much to offer to you unless you want to hear my opinion, a second opinion about the festival, but more about those who missed it, more about those people who probably wanted to go there but couldn't come for one reason or another, be it distance or money problems, time problems, health issues, whatever you have. This is also the news to tell you what did I interview there, because obviously that is probably the most important thing for a lot of people out there following the channel and all that stuff. But I also want to give a couple of shout outs to the bands which I witnessed live, because obviously some bands just are better than the others. While this ain't no competition, everybody has their own favorites and all that stuff. I tried to keep this short and sweet, but I never been able to do that, so let's get the ship going on and start talking about it. So March 7 and 8 of 2025, Metsämäki Horse Racetrack Arena was the place for this 12th edition of Turku Saatanalle, or XII, like the Roman numbers go, and headliners for the given event were obviously Beherit and Clandestine Blaze. I'll have lots of more information on Facebook site, but for the sake of this video, we'll just use this as backdrop. And it was quite an international lineup, meaning there were quite a few Finnish names, yes, given the headliners and all, but also quite a few names that were outside Finland, some even from South America, which made this even more interesting. So you had a lot of variety, not only in style of music, but geographically also. However, curious as may be, the headliners were Finnish this time. So from a Finnish perspective, might not sound that exotic unless you really take a look at the bands in question and start wondering, yeah, they don't really play that often, and yet they're important names from the Finnish metal scene. Now, Friday, this show got started with Ködy from Estonia, which unfortunately I missed. I got to listen to a bit prior to the festival, but sometimes my interviews very much overlap with the given times, and people who have been following the channel know that it always happens with me, at Steelfest. Because when bands start early on and I have to do the interviews during the shows, means I'm gonna miss something. I just have to sacrifice seeing some bands sometimes before, or because I'm making the interviews. It sucks for me, and it sucks, I guess, for the bands who are, somehow interested in what I get to sell, but it is what it is. And as much as we tried to do some of the interviews during the, afternoon hours, couldn't. So instead, it was just time spent with friends and, being a guide in my home city. Turku, after all, is my home city. So anyway, first couple of bands I basically missed altogether. I only heard a little bit and saw a little bit of Ködy or the Casterion from Belgium. It is a shame indeed, but what can you do? Both bands sounded solid, but can't really say much because, like I said, didn't see even half a show of either bands. And let's get about the interviews soon. The third band on Friday was Curse Upon a Prayer, a black metal band that has been here for more than 10 years now, and he has been kind of a rising star in a way. The band played powerful show. I didn't see it full because of the given interviews, but I saw enough to know what I'm talking about. And this is one of the bands I'm happy that we got to do in the afternoon hours on Saturday as interview. So that is coming out, and as people probably know, they made a good album last year. So some Finnish black metal the proper blasphemic ways with an aggressive lineup, good sound and all. So this is something you probably want to see in the future as well. The guys' experience kind of shows, and yeah, it's good one for sure. Now, Power from Hell from Brazil was the first band I got to interview during the festival on Friday, and they played an energetic show with their black metal as well. Now, some people might say there are parts of thrash or death metal in the mix, but like the band itself calls it, it's black metal, maybe with a more modern touch than anything else. And in my opinion, it's a band that has only gotten better with the years, not just in terms of production, but songwriting as well. So something that, in case you have a chance to see, go for it. And obviously, these kind of Brazilian names are not everyday visitors when it comes to the Nordic countries or Europe in general. And what was labeled as the last show in Europe for Morbosidad, a American band, which I also got to interview on Friday, was interesting with their, the combination of death black metal. Some might say it's more war metallic. Some might say it's just black metal with death metal twist, or in the vein of Archcode and all. Everybody probably has their own opinion with that, but whatever it is, in your opinion, I think it was great to have that kind of a band with a lot of Latin blood in the mix, showcasing their music and, putting it on stage here in Finland. And what we had already been talking about on the interview is that might not be the last show in Europe after all, because there is a demand for that. So people who are now upset about, oh, it was a false advertisement, don't be happy that you probably have a new chance to see them live. When and where and all it will happen, who knows? It's hard to say at this point, but it's definitely one of the last shows for now, for the time being and all. But for me, the highlight for Friday was Beherit. Not only because, Beherit is a cult act, but also because it was my first time seeing it. Now, a lot of people know that I'm not exactly the biggest Beherit fan out there. I guess I really don't even count as Beherit fan, because I'm more like a casual listener when it comes to Beherit. It's because, Engram is my favorite Beherit album, and some probably are like, oh, that's blasphemous. You have to talk about the early days. And yes, they do have some cool stuff like Drawing Down the Moon and, all of the Black Blood, which are solid, and they are definitely important, even more culturally important rather than musical one, if you ask me. But be it as may, Engram is my favorite from Beherit stuff, and it was in general very, very cool to see how they included not just, the black metal tracks, but also those ambient tracks. And now having this kind of a newer lineup, I mean, we're not talking about the original lineup more than 30 years ago, back in the early 90s, or, with the 80s, 90s turn of the whole decade back in the days. We're talking about some younger members and some old members, some original members, that is. And, they made fantastic atmosphere for the given live. There was a lot of ambient parts which seamlessly were included with the music, and you really can tell that, audience fucking loved it. And in that sense, Beherit was not a disappointment, not at all. Quite the contrary. It was a powerful live where they used a lot of different light elements, colors of light in terms of given album stuff and all. And the closer you got, the more, overwhelming the whole atmosphere was. So as you can pretty much figure it out, even though I wouldn't watch the whole show from the near the stage, but only part of it, and some from the more far away. That's just how I usually do. You can really tell that it was a very, very important experience. So for me, it was the highlight for Friday, even if musically, I guess I'm typically more into different kind of, black metal and all. But like I said, you have to witness Beherit with your own eyes to understand the importance, and that put into context of what happened originally with the band is now something like 35 years or older. So very important to see them live. Now, Saturday was in a way pretty much, in terms of how the evening started for me anyway, kind of a clone of the Friday night, because the first two bands I missed. Now, Licht des Urteils I've said somewhere along the road, and Sacrilegious Impalement luckily many, many times. Now, this was 20th anniversary set, so in that sense I probably should have been there, but I've seen them a few times, obviously, over the years. The main man is a friend of mine, and we even played with them September. So this was a good band for me to sacrifice. They probably understand better than anybody else, because, we've played together. We've seen each other in various events over the years. So for me, it was a safe bet to sacrifice in order to do my interviews. And the interviews in question on Saturday was, like first I mentioned, Curse Upon a Prayer in the afternoon, but when it comes to the foreign bands, well, we started with Chathokwa from Germany and Hellerun from the Netherlands. And yeah, it was really, really cool to get these bands for interview because, first of all, they are, rare names here. And secondly, for example, in Chathokwa's case, they are not, a new band. They have like 30 plus years of history. And as such, it was important for me to get those veterans, to talk to them. And talking of which, can say Chathokwa's gig was one of the best ones. There was so much aggression, and the use of gimp masks really put them in a little bit different box than a lot of other bands, because they have, first of all, a lot of old school black metal things with their first two albums, and later on they changed a little bit with their comeback album. But even if that, combines death metal with, earlier black metal style, they nailed it. There was so much aggression, and the whole stage performance were really strong. It seemed like they were really intimidating guys, and for me it means a lot when a band looks and feels dangerous on stage, even if they are the nicest guys when you see them out of the stage. That means a lot. Bands are supposed to be something out of ordinary for me, especially when we're talking about the extreme metal genre. But I mean, whatever the style is, even if I would go to see some pop music, I want it to be different than, just your normal experience. And that's what Chathokwa really delivered. They delivered danger, or the sense of danger for that matter, and aggression, violence and all. And yeah, definitely in my top trio for this given weekend in terms of live performance and all. That was followed by Clandestine Blaze. Now, some people are like, hey, that was supposed to be the headlining act, and here they are, third last band. Yes, for reasons unannounced, they were here, as third to the latest one, their last one, and they were the ones that probably got, as much people, or Beherit, or even more. Probably roughly the same amount. Because their style of raw end of black metal as a trio nowadays, it's not even the same lineup that what it was 2016 at the very same event. And I know the lineup, but the lineup is kind of a secret. So if you go for Metal Archives, you don't see the live lineup, as far as I could tell for today's, for example, when I was checking out some band information regarding other matters. And I think it's cool, and that's why it's not even, spoken. But Clandestine Blaze, as a trio, so basically two guys and a drummer, they delivered fast and aggressive and also violent. So different than Chathokwa because the pace is not that, or the tempo is not that high. But, it's not like Clandestine Blaze is like some slow tempo doom band either. And they're a raw take on, the kind of a Finnish way to do Darkthrone, but then again, quite different also. Was once again a good, solid performance, much like the last time when I saw them with a different lineup. So obviously the feel is a little bit different, but yeah, solid band. Once again, proving their stuff, and they did fine show. So in my opinion, these are the top three: Beherit, Clandestine Blaze, and Chathokwa. Not in any particular order, they're all so different, and I don't want to even start, counting points and whatever. Hellerun from Holland was the second last band, and it's curious bands because there's only one stable member in the given band, and the rest are more or less, I guess would be fair to say, mercenaries or live members. And their style with, just 2 albums out was actually quite good sounding stuff, because it's not like it's the most experienced bands in terms of like years of existence and albums made and all, but they made a solid show and it sounded good. I'm not exactly too experienced with the given band's music, so maybe with more spins and all, I would probably have enjoyed the gig even more. I watched it quite far away, so can't really compare to the bands which I saw up close like Beherit and Chathokwa and Clandestine Blaze, but it is what it is. But at least it gave me a positive feeling about the gig, so maybe next time I will be closer. And that's also what we did interview with. Maybe not in the way I kind of hoped, but you will get to see it, so you will make the guesses then. Then last, but definitely not last, was White Death, a band that I've seen now 3 times and they are always solid. This time I was actually giving it less attention because I already saw them last Steelfest and have seen them once before, and I kind of knew what they're gonna play because their style of fierce, melodic, Finnish black metal is very solid, and always something kind of out of ordinary happens on stage. So I don't know, I enjoyed the show from far away because their melodies are so catchy. There's lots of aggression and then those kind of high scream vocals which really do the trick. But if there was something, badass happening on stage, that I couldn't see because I was indeed a little bit farther away. And this is not just, disrespect the band in case people are wondering. It's just the very fact that not everybody gets squeezed into the first show. And secondly, I feel, I'll get the age excuse, a little bit too old to be all the time on the front, especially if it's a band I've seen, more than, say, once and all. But I tend to be more on the middle or a little bit farther away and just, enjoy the whole stuff as a, full scope rather than going to the very front at all. And obviously some people enjoy the most on front, and I guess in terms of the sound politics this time, because it was different than 5 years ago when this same venue was used, it was obvious that the sound was more powerful and you could hear details way better if you were on the front. To recap it quickly, overall good weekend with a lot of bands which are not exactly my favorite, but totally worth listening and totally worth seeing live. So for me it was quite a few bands that I saw now for the first time. But even so, even with all the friends I saw, even with all the gigs I saw, I must say that, for me, maybe this is surprising, maybe not. For me, it gives most pleasure that I get to do these 5 interviews with the given bands, because everybody was very nice, polite, and, interesting to talk to. So, be it Curse Upon a Prayer from Finland, or Morbus Dot from USA, Powerful Hell from Brazil, Helleruin from, Netherlands, or Jadok from Germany, everybody was nice and interesting. So what can I say? I feel very, very, privileged because I get to do this. And of course, I personally hope that you will enjoy those interviews as well, because it's fun to do them, but it's more fun to share those moments with you, especially because I'm not doing those interviews for me. I get all that I get from those talking sessions, but it's meant for you as fans, new or old ones, to get some information about the band. So I hope you will enjoy it. And regarding Turku Saatanalle, that was a very, very successful event. As you probably know, the original venue was sold out. So when this moved to a bigger venue, there were more tickets sold. It wasn't totally sold, but really, really full still, meaning that, there will be something very, very interesting, I'm sure, as a successor next year. And those who missed this year probably have to be, tuned in for whatever announcements there might be about 2026. And I think a lot of newcomers, the first-timers at Turku Saatanalle, were really satisfied with the gigs and with the stuff. And those who were afraid that this racing track is a few kilometers outside the city central as opposed to the original venue probably felt and agree with me that, going there and going back to the city was easy because there were those shuttle buses, doing the trips back and forth, as well as, normal taxis, Ubers, Bolts, whatever have you, to, make people go back and forth with a relatively cheap price too. So I don't know, for me at least, it didn't matter much that the venue was outside the city, because at least it made possible way better backstage areas, bigger stage area in terms of like where you could see the bands without no pillars blocking your view. The beer sales were sometimes a little bit queued up, but not too much. All the merchandise areas and everything was nicely set up. So for me, this was actually better than the original venue, but that's just my opinion. Obviously, feel free to disagree and all that stuff. Now, if you were there, I'm looking for your feedback. I'm looking for your experience as well, so I can share it to the organizer Metalli Helvetti. So did you like it or did you not like it? Or and if you could improve something, what it would be? Just let me know and I can pass the information, and maybe next year it's gonna be even better. But then again, it's gonna be hard to top this lineup with bands like Beherit, Clandestine Blaze, White Death, and what have you. So overall, a great fucking weekend. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I guess that only events like Steelfest can top it for me this year. But we'll see about that later. Now, people, off you go, and looking forward to hear from you. What did you think of it? Let me know, and we'll get back to that. Now, off you go. Stay tuned for more videos later on. Bye bye.